How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Tressa's Collectibles channel. I'm Randall, aka Shizukats.
And how's it going, guys? Mike here.
And today we're going to be doing a deck overview for the newly released English original set, The Eminence in Shadow, which got announced a little under a year ago. It got announced at last year's World Finals, but now it is finally here, a week before this year's World Finals, and we have done a bit of research onto some of the deck archetypes and some of the card choices that you guys can expect to try to mess around with when you are getting into your deck building process. Obviously, with this being an English original set, we have no prior experience with any of the cards and combinations that are available, and so we've had to kind of homebrew the combinations and come up with our own ideas for what we think might be good for this set. So each of us, Mike and myself, have done a little bit of research on different parts of the set and have shared our ideas and bounced some of our ideas off of each other to try to come up with new strategies. And we're going to be elaborating on some of our results with you guys today. So, Mike, do you have any preliminary thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the set was quite a lot of fun to dig into, and definitely a lot more to be discovered and a lot of lists to be refined. But so far, I actually have had quite a lot of fun testing out different builds and exploring different synergies. And honestly, I am really excited to share with you what I have found for this set, because I do think that a lot of potential deck lists can be better than they read on paper. So I'm excited to get into this with you guys.
Yeah, I feel like the perception of the set online so far, because at the time of this recording, the cards have been all available on TCG Player to read at this point. So people have already started coming up with their own ideas and making their own perceptions about the set. So some of them have been a little bit less than positive. So we'll try to tell you guys all of what we think are the positives of the set and what we think is some cool stuff that you can explore. So we're going to be starting with the climax combos. I feel like this is basically where all deck building begins. As for those of you who haven't taken a look at the set at all yet, just a very brief overview. This is a 3-color set with green, red, and blue, and the characters that are present in each of those colors correspond to like different factions. I haven't watched or read Eminence in Shadow, but basically like the breakdown that I've heard is that green is all the bad guys, and blue is the main character Shadow and his ladies.
His shadow and his shadows.
Yeah, and then red is... this is like an isekai show, right? So like, is red like all of the like native isekai characters
Well,
that are not bad?
I do believe so. This is the Kingdom of Midgar. But yeah, I assume you know this is like the shadows and Shadow that got thrown into this world. The green characters are the bad guys. Red characters are like the quote unquote good guys, I suppose. And there's some cute girls in red. So if they're cute, they can't possibly be evil.
Yep, that's never been the case before, ever. Nope.
Never ever.
Okay, but yeah, starting with the climax combos, I feel like probably the best place to start is with blue, just because I feel like this is a big reason why a lot of people are going to be getting into Eminence in Shadow in the first place, is the ladies.
For sure.
With that being said, there are 3 notable blue climax combos in the set.
Or actually, do you think we should do level 3s and then level 1s, I think.
You think so?
I think that would work a bit better. Just let's see what our finisher options are, and then let's see what our advantage combos are. And I think starting with blue either way is a good idea.
Okay, so there are 3 blue climax combos, 2 of which are finisher combos. So the first one is going to be the Shadow level 3. So this card is on play. You can sacrifice one of your other characters in order to salvage 2 characters from your waiting room. And this is going to be important for fulfilling his actual finisher condition, which requires him to be the only character that you have in your front row. And then I forget the exact cost. It's like what? Pay 2, discard 2 copies of himself plus 3?
Correct. So it's on attack, pay 2 stock, discard 2 more copies of himself, and discard 3 other cards, and also send his climax to the waiting room from the climax area. If you do, burn 3 5 times.
So this results. So this results in 6 total instances of damage for the turn, and 5 of them are going to be 3, and then the last one is going to be base 2 soul because you don't have the climax anymore.
Right. So essentially, you can think of this combo as basically a play 3 characters. They all have on attack burn 3, though the numbers are a lot more consistent. For example, you're not going to have trigger RNG by just swings. So there are always going to be instances of 3 outside of his own attack, which is 2 plus trigger, unless you're directing. So I think the big pro of this particular combo is that it is significantly cheaper compared to the equivalent amount of burns on a traditional finisher. Let's say that burn 3 is costed as 1 stock and 1 hand. So you would need to have 7 stock in order to go off on a triple combo with 3 burn 3s. But the Shadow, at the detriment of only attacking once, you do the same amount of damage, but you only need 4 stock. So you actually save 3 stock for very comparable numbers. This allows you to incorporate whatever remainder stock you have into just whatever else you want. You could go into a early play heal strategy at the mid game and still have enough stock for your triple burn 3s, quote unquote. But most importantly, you can also elevate the finishing power of this Shadow through stock swap. So this set does have a level 3 Delta, which has stock swap. So
I just know it's not Delta. Delta is the burn one.
Oh,
which,
sorry.
Which coincidentally you can also actually include in this deck.
It's Zeta. Sorry, my bad. Zeta.
Okay, so Zeta is a stock swap, but notably the Delta, which we will talk about more in depth later, but that Delta does have on play burn one, which you could technically incorporate into this strategy to tack on extra burns during main phase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So any extra stock you have can be used quite efficiently in order to raise your ceiling of the finisher. Stock swap into burn 3 5 times swing is only 7 stock, which is very obtainable. And like Randall mentioned, if you do have some other like extra stock you can play like on play burn 1, or there is an alarm in this set that also has alarm, pay 1, discard 1, burn 1, things like that. So definitely very powerful and very efficient. Naturally, the downside is you don't actually attack 3 times. So if you needed to like clear your opponent's board, it's not super easy. And also, you do need a very specific set of cards in your hand. So if you lose track of your other copies of the level 3 Shadow, then not having condition for this combo means you literally don't do anything for your climax combo.
Mm-hmm. So that is going to be the first of our blue level 3 finisher packages. The second one is going to be the level 3 sortie trio. 2 of the cards of which we have already mentioned, those being the Zeta stock swap and the Delta on play burn 1. So both of those cards, as you guys have probably noticed since they will have been on screen at this point, do have a climax combo. And they climax combo with the same pants climax, along with a level 3 alpha, right?
Alpha, yes. And so the alpha has a on play top check 3 add 1 effect. So basically they share the same gimmick on their climax combos, where they can only activate their climax combo as long as you don't have 2 other copies of them, of that particular character. So like if you have Delta, she only activates if you have only 1 other Delta. You can't have a tri-lane of Delta attacking. So it kind of encourages you to just mix and match. Mm-hmm. This particular climax lineup, I think, is probably the highest ceiling in terms of finisher potential, just by virtue of having the stock swap finisher incorporated as part of the climax combo line. But also, you can very easily pivot into the other climax combo effects. So Delta is a on play burn 1, and then on attack pay 2 burn 2, if you have 1 or less other copy of her. So it's just a very straight up burn 1, burn 2 finisher. Alpha is on attack, you can pay 1, discard 3. Then, if you do, burn 2. If that cancels, burn 3. If that cancels, burn 4. So the damage potential is very high, but you do need for her for her initial burns to cancel to get the maximum value out of her. And then the Zeta stock swap is on attack, fake Mocha. So what I mean by this is you look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, choose up to 1 card, put it on the bottom of their deck, leave the rest on top, and then she gets 3,000 power. So by the order of most to least powerful, probably it is going to be like Alpha and Delta is normally what you want to use as actual attackers, while Zeta you incorporate in case you actually need to stock swap, and she will probably just be one of your attackers by virtue of you not having enough stock to play 3 other copies of of other finishers.
Mm-hmm.
Something that is very powerful about this is the flexibility. I do think that it's very easy to go into like double Delta and Alpha as your primary line, but then you can sculpt into your stock swap, and then you can still use the stock swap as like a quote-unquote finisher. However, this does require a lot of deck building and keeping track of where your pieces are, as well as just it is a very high stock combo. You do need 9 stock in order to double Delta and Alpha. If you want to go for like I think what probably is the more traditional finisher line. So you do need to hoard a lot of resources stock-wise in order to get there. And also it's fairly all-in. None of these heal. That is one of the similarities with some other finishers in the set. Most finishers in the set don't actually heal, so you kind of just have to go in if you are like low to mid level 3. And then if you don't kill them, you're probably dead.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the sculpting for this endgame, pretty much like the standard sculpt is probably going to be like 1 of the Zeta stock swap, 1 Alpha, and 2 Deltas. And then...
Right, that's usually what you go for, with priority on the double Delta and Alpha. If the game does not seem like it's going in a direction where you need the stock swap, you can just choose to not sculpt for it. But it's always nice to have in rotation, so that if you do need it, you can prepare for it. And then deck building ratio wise, I have found that 3 Delta, 2 Alpha, 2 Zeta is generally good enough. This might depend on your level 1 game. I was testing mostly with the level 1 Shadow that we'll talk about later down the line. But 3-2-2 seems to be a solid number. I think if you want to play a bit more safe, you can play 4 Delta and then 2 Alpha, 2 Zeta. But any more than those numbers, and you probably get just really bricky. It is just a ton of level 3s that don't do anything outside of level 3. So I think finding the perfect golden ratio and whatever you're comfortable with is going to be key to solving how to deck build this deck and have what you need on a consistent basis.
Yeah. I think overall this is probably going to be the finisher combo that is most attractive to like more casual players, like people that just want to get into the set just for the sake of playing Eminence and Shadow, rather than like the really competitive minded players. But who knows, we could see this end up being the go-to finisher lineup for like the most competitive Eminence build as well.
Yeah, I do think the level 3 Shadow finisher is also going to be very attractive, because I have watched up to that particular episode, and it is he does basically just go looks maxing, and he goes like, I am atomic, and he blows everything up and like saves all the girls and whatever. So that's from that scene, so that's like a fairly iconic. So I do think a lot of people will really like that combo, and it is actually thankfully very playable as well. So
it is also thankfully a common, so very easy to just snag a bunch of copies of this and just YOLO in. So,
yeah, it's crazy that that's a common.
Yeah, it's like you were saying, if it's that iconic of a scene, then like being a common is quite surprising. Okay, so that is gonna do it for our 2 main blue finisher lines. Going on to our red finisher of the set, we have the level 3 Beatrix, War Goddess Beatrix. So this one is kind of a parallel to Enterprise from Azur Lane Volume 2. For those of you who are familiar with that set. On playability is, what, top check 3? Top
The on-play ability is on-play draw one, choose one of your opponent's characters, and they can't use backups or events for the turn.
Okay. So like the main idea is that you're getting a card back, which is going to help pay for her Climax combo cost. The Climax combo itself is on door, on attack, does not require experience, unlike the Enterprise, but does have different conditions. So it's what? On attack, pay 2, discard 2.
Yep.
And then this card will trigger twice during this attack. And then each time you trigger an event or Eminence and Shadow character, you do an instance of burn 2. So this means that you can potentially trigger 2 characters and or events and then get 2 instances of burn 2 out of just a single copy of the finisher, with a full complete turn of Triple Beatrix being able to burn the opponent a total of 6 times for 2 plus 3 attacks.
Yeah. Worth noting is that this card does have specific event support. There is a 3/1 event, Om Nom Nom.
Om nom nom.
You get to salvage a character from your waiting room and then choose up to one of the 3/2 Beatrixes from your hand, play it on stage, and then that character gets 4,000 power for the turn. That's really nice because if you didn't have 3 copies, you could just grab 3, your finisher again. But also it saves you a stock. So if you haven't reached that stock threshold for triple, every copy of the event can essentially be +1 stock. So it potentially can be a very consistent combo to actually pull off. The burns, on the other hand, are going to be fairly random. It is nice that it does hit on both characters and events. So when we are comparing this to Enterprise from Azurlane, she has to check. Enterprise has to check for yellow and blue characters, but it's nice that the Beatrix can hit on basically every character in the set, plus all the events as well. What do you think about the burn 2 versus burn 3 aspect of the comparison here?
I mean, I feel like pretty much most players would agree that burn 3 is pretty much always the more favorable number to be using in your endgame. Probably like the most favorable number to have an endgame. So the fact that it's 2s instead of 3s, like, it is worse, obviously, but it's still multiple instances, and you can really never say no to multiple instances if it makes itself available. Obviously, it is random, but like, you take what you can get. A lot of damage in multiple instances is always going to be better than one big instance of damage.
Right. As a point of another comparison, the combo that we just talked about, the sortie combo, Delta combo is essentially burn 1, burn 2. So by that comparison, if Beatrix can pull off burn 2, that is naturally significantly better. And also not to be discounted, I think, is the fact that it just turns off any and all interaction from your opponent. They just can't do anything in terms of just playing counters from their hand. Doesn't need to reverse, so things like JC won't really have an effect. So it is kind of a coin flip, this finisher is, but at the very least your opponent likely will not be able to do anything about the results of that coin flip.
And also something that we didn't mention earlier, but the fact that you are triggering twice means that you are generating 2 stock per attack as opposed to the usual 1. So the total stock cost of a Triple Beatrix turn is deceptively low. You just need 8 starting stock, 6 of which is going to be used to play the first Beatrix, and then on your first attack you need to spend 2. And then this 8 is further reduced by 1 for each copy of Om Nom Nom you resolve on that turn.
Right.
So yeah, deceptively cheap stock-wise, and then some of the hand is going to be replenished via Beatrix's on-play effect, so even that is deceptively cheap.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like hand would ever really be an issue. And then the stock, I think pulling this combo off as a triple should just probably be pretty trivial, as long as you prepare well during the mid game and you have a solid list. But I do think the downfall of this combo is definitely just the randomness of it. Unlike Enterprise as well, which heals, Beatrix does not. So you're basically just very all in on this combo. if you go all in on the Bea and like you trigger climaxes, that not only means you probably are not killing them because you're not burning twos, but also probably means you're dead because you trigger climaxes.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I like Beatrix is probably like one of the few times in Weiss Schwarz where like you play the on-play cantrip effect, and then you're probably like glad to see a climax because it's just like, oh well, it means I'm not triggering that. Okay.
Yeah, definitely a good combo for those that find themselves having a magnetic attraction to climaxes, which is me.
Yeah. I will also say though, I do think that it might actually be to your benefit to go into your Beatrix combo turn with one more stock than you think you need. The reason being, after the final attack, if you had one extra stock to begin with, that means that you will be ending the turn with, instead of just 2 stock, you'll end with 3, and you could potentially use a free refresh counter. And assuming you were able to scale over the opponent's entire board, as long as you're higher power, this is guaranteed because they wouldn't be able to use counters, then you will always have bodies to use your refresh counter on when they go back to attack at you. So kind of a way to make a good thing out of a bad situation.
Definitely. And the Om Nom Nom effect does give 4,000 power and helps you hand fix. So yeah, definitely a very solid line. Just a contingency plan in case you don't finish the opponent.
All right. So with that being said, let's move on to our next finisher, which is going to be in green. This is going to be the Gaunt Knight Stock Soul finisher. So this is one of the bad guys due to being in green. This is a pretty interesting combo. It's pretty much a parallel to Natsu from the recent Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest set, in that the climax combo is a burn with an anti-burn attached to it. And then Gaunt Knight also heals on play, and then is an 11k body that prevents events from being used during this card's battle. So it doesn't stop all counters like Beatrix does, but is able to stop some of those pesky event counters like Nikke. The fact that this is a Stock Soul combo means that it will be lower power compared to a 1k1 climax, and this makes it a little bit harder to use the anti-burn part of this card's climax combo, since it'll be a little bit harder for him to scale over an opponent's existing high power board. But that being said, it is a pretty solid climax combo overall. Just the fact that it is an 11k healer allows you to heal down when you are hit to level 3. And then you can use the anti-burn from the climax combo to try to prevent yourself from dying from that position that you healed down from. So like your opponent has to like kill you with basically like vanilla swings from 3-0 in ideal scenarios, unless they have like a restander or something, because you can't really do anything about a restander with an anti-burn.
Right. I mean, the Gaunt Knight, I think, should not be discounted as a possible competitive option just because he's green and he's a bad guy and he's not a girl. He is one of the only finishers that not only heals on play, but also does try to go for that 2-turn game plan, and is fairly effective at it, assuming that you can tri-lane. I do think it is a really big shame that it is on a Stock Soul compared to something like just a gold bar. Stock Soul level 3s, it's just like, you just don't have too many opportunities to play that Stock Soul in the early game, compared to something like a Climax Combo Advantage Stock Soul at level 0 or level 1, where you are probably playing a Stock Soul 2 to 3 times a game. Chances are the Gaunt Knight Stock Soul, you're probably only playing like once or even 0 times before you actually get into Climax Combo turn. And then outside of that, it's just random double triggers. But I would not be surprised if we see some green top ends, doing pretty well. Again, I think people probably can be biased just because of who's on the card, but if we just read the card text, it's quite serviceable.
Yeah, this climax combo is also ridiculously easy to use. You just get them in your hand, you put them on the board, and then you don't even need to go into your after playing your 3 Gaunt Knights, you don't even need to have any stock, because the Stock Soul is going to give you the 1 stock that you need for your first instance of combo, and then you just need the three discards. So just All you need is the 3 Gaunt Knights, 3 discards, Stock Soul, and you just go. That's it. So very easy to use, and also just keeps you safe from your opponent's potential swing back. I will say, though, that kind of similar to what we saw in the Fairy Tale Natsu deck, you do want to have some sort of back row to back him up, because you do need that high power for him to survive the turn and be able to actually use his anti-burn text. And so, of the available back row options, I felt like the best one that was available to use would be the 2/1 Aurora support, which is, it's a 1k assist in green, and then if you have 2 or more memory, then she becomes a 2k support. So not the most exciting card, and also does require you to play a few memory cards, but I think that it's probably pretty easily achievable. There are some pretty splashable memory options in the set, like the level 0 Aurora that rests to pump 15. There's also the level 0, I think her name is like Olivier or something like that. But she pays 1 and sends herself to memory to top 3. That's just a generally usable utility card. And then for the build that I tried with the level 3 Gaunt Knight, I just also threw in 2 copies of the level 1 Aurora, which just can go to memory for free. So it's not too hard to actually turn on your 2/1 2k support in order to turn 2 of your Gaunt Knights into 13ks and just allow them to be a lot more stable on the board.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that I think it is a blessing that like we do at least have one card in the set that can give free memory for that 2k assist. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the only 2k assist in the set? Do we not have a traditional 2k to front 2 level 3s?
There's a red one, and then it also has, when you trigger a climax, you can discard a card to draw a card, but that doesn't particularly synergize with either of the climaxes that I was running, at least in my deck, which was I was running the level 1 Alexia Door into the Stock Soul. So yeah, usually you want to use that sort of support with like Gold Bar or Pants, so that when you trigger a climax, you get a climax and then can immediately discard it for the effect.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I decided to go with the Aurora back row.
Yeah, and the Aurora also just pumps all characters as well, so it can help you in the mid game.
Yeah, 8k 8k Alexia combos. It's pretty good. Okay, so that is going to be our finisher combos. And now we're going to get into our advantage combos, starting with the blue level 1 double R Shadow. So this one is, what, you need 3 other characters for this combo, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of text on this card, but basically he's 4k base and he gets 3, 5, and 1 level if you have 2 or more others. But to activate his climax combo, you need 3 or more others, alongside having 6 or less stock when he attacks. But if you fulfill those requirements, he does let you check up to the top 5 cards of your deck, add up to 1 Eminence and Shadow character. But if you top check 5 and all 5 of those are Eminence and Shadow characters, then you get to add 2, which sometimes you just get to +2 for free, and that feels great. So this is I basically took over kind of testing the Shadow builds, so I've been testing a lot of just blue builds like double Shadow combo or level 1 Shadow into the Swordy trio. So I do have a good amount of I think idea about like judging this card. I do think this card is quite good. I am quite fond of the top check 5, as well as him just being 8/5 on attack with the climax for no good reason.
Yeah, this dude took a page out of Satono Diamond's book.
Yeah, exactly. I do appreciate that, for example, I am the type of player that can just be out 7 on my turn 2. So not only does Shadow allow me to hyper mill through my deck, but also I can probably just go up to full hand when I do anyways, because as long as I'm checking 5 characters, he lets me +2, which again, like Satono Diamond is like, man, +2 is great. I think Shadow is also just. I feel like he is kind of just shoestring into certain builds. Like there are a couple of cards that are designed around, just him and also the Pants trigger. The set does have a specific Delta Brainstorm, which has a second effect of when you trigger Pants, you can discard one to clock swap. And also there is a level 0 Gamma, which is a front 500 power character. And also, when she's placed on stage from hand, you can choose a level 1 Shadow Climax combo in Wait Room and marker it underneath her. And then when you use an act for a character on the hand or stage, you can use the marker as cost instead. So Shadow's just something that I think is just very high floor. And it's just a very consistent combo to try. No matter if you are trying to play something like 8 Pants, or if you want to go into like Pants into maybe like any of the other level 3 combos, Beatrix or God Knight, I don't think you're locked into running, Shadow into 8 Pants. But he seems just like a very solid combo to me.
Mm-hmm. I do think that one thing that is important to note about this Shadow combo is you need to not get lost in the sauce and just constantly hunt for that +2, because
yes,
this card at its core, it's still a top check up to 5 add 1 combo, and that means that you don't have to top check all 5 if you don't need to. So like if you want to play for your deck state and maintain the number of climaxes in your deck, then just go for that like top check 1, and if you like what you see, just add it, and then just try to touch your deck as little as possible in the situations where it is applicable, and just really analyze the situation and just try not to throw a game by hunting for that high roll when you don't need to.
Definitely, you're trying to look for a highlight by adding 2 characters, but in the midst of your greed, you might go into a low light where you reveal 3 climaxes where you really didn't need to. So definitely be careful. But outside of that, if played properly, he is, I think, quite a strong card.
Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be our blue level 1 advantage combo. Moving over to red now, we have a couple pretty good options. Let's start with the level 1 rare Alexia door combo. So this one is going to be a parallel to many level 1 cigarettes combos that we've seen throughout Weiss Schwarz's history over the last like 6 or 7 years, where it's going to be an on attack combo that mills 2, adds up the levels of the 2 milled cards, and then lets you salvage a character with level X or lower, where X is that sum. And additionally, if the sum of levels was 2 or more, you also get +1 soul for that attack. So normally combos with this text require experience 2, such as Bremerton from Azure Lane, or Shauna from Shakugan no Shauna. But in this case, this Alexia does not require experience, but instead requires a condition of 3 or more other characters on stage. So do need to be careful about that. You can't just go into your attack phase with no back row and expect your combo to work. That being said, Alexia does incentivize you to have a full board anyway. Her first effect is she continuously gets 500 power for each of your other Eminence and Shadow characters on stage, allowing her to go up to a maximum of 6,000 power cross turn, which is quite nice. And overall, this is a very solid, yet at the same time random option. You are limited to only milling exactly 2 cards per instance of combo, and you don't have any flexibility in that regard as to whether or not you want to stay in your current deck state or get out of your current deck state in the same way that the level 1 Shadow does. But the selectivity is on average going to be higher because you have the options in your waiting room to grab from. Obviously, it is going to be based on levels, and for that reason, you might want to make your level ratios a little bit on the higher side in order to maybe try to push more damage with that +1 soul bonus. But cigarettes, just at its core, has always been just a solid enough combo to make its way into multiple decks over the last several years, and I feel like this Alexia is not really any different in that regard.
Yeah, I do think that there's nothing wrong with the good old-fashioned cigarettes. I do think that if there was any reason to play cigarettes in this set, outside of just like you like the climax combo effect, it is nice that this set does have some door-specific support. So you might be inclined to try this over some of the other combos because of those supports like the brainstorm, and there is a 1-0 that lets you give 2 characters crush when you play a door. I also do think that being able to have continuous power cross turn, I think in this modern day and age, we just assume that our opponents will always have triple climax combo and they will always reverse our characters. But the truth of the matter is, Weiss Schwarz is always going to be Weiss Schwarz. And sometimes 6K is just going to stick around. So I do quite fancy the fact that she does have a moderately sized body. You could perhaps even run a 2K counter or something just to protect the lane, open up a direct for the next turn. But definitely not something that a random level 0 can just kill for no reason. Unlike a lot of modern level 1 combos.
A lot of modern yellow level 1 combos with soul triggers.
Yeah, exactly. And like even the Shadow in this set too, he's just 4K on defense, so like any level 0 beater plus a 1K one will just like be able to reverse him. But I do think I think the power is a bit underappreciated nowadays. So if you are able to get like triple Alexia and your opponent does have triple climax combo, you most likely will get another incidental +1 from that, which is quite nice.
Yeah. And as far as companion option, earlier we mentioned that level 1 back row that gives double crush when you play a door climax. We can also talk about the level 1 number 666 here. I think is probably a pretty good opportunity to squeeze this card in as a potential stock gen option to go alongside Alexia. So the number 666 is basically Mel from Hololive. It's a 4/5 base, and then when you use an act ability, she gains 1500 power for the turn, and on attack, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it is a level 1 or higher card, you can send it to stock. With the 1/0's other effect being rest this, give 2500 on an act, this would activate the number 666 ability for free, which is awesome. And then when you play a door climax, being able to give crush to the number 666 allows you to more easily hit the top check to get that stock charge. Coincidentally, she also synergizes well with counters because character backups are act abilities. So as we said earlier, the Alexia does have the option to maybe pick up a 2K counter here or there in order to try to protect your lanes on defense and go from like 6K defense to 8K. But this also synergizes well with the number 666. You could have an entire front line of just 8K defensive, or well, not 8K, but like 6K, and then wherever you use your counter would become 8K characters. So I think that it does have some pretty good synergy with the overall package that Alexia brings with her.
Definitely. There's not a lot of builds that can super easily splash in a costless startup effect. There is just deck building slot opportunity cost in that, but I do think that because the 1/0 is something we want to play in presumably 8 door, if you are playing the Beatrix level 3, you probably want to play this 1/0. The 666 fits in that build very naturally, as long as you can splash blue, and there's plenty of good blue cards to splash, so that is definitely a good companion card.
So for our other red level 1 advantage combo, we have the trial deck Minoru, which is Shadow pre-Shadow, from what I understand. This one is also a pretty solid card, mostly due to the fact that it has a really nice bonder. So the level 1 Minoru is going to be a 1/0 4/5 base. During your turn, gains an additional 2k power, as long as you have 2 or more other characters on stage. And then the climax combo is going to activate at the start of the encore step. If the character across from this is reversed, or there is no character across from him, you can pay cost, which is discard an Eminence and Shadow character. Honestly, it's quite unfortunate that you have to discard a character for this, but it is what it is.
It's a big bummer.
Yeah. you discard a character for cost, and then you salvage 2 characters from your waiting room. So, does not affect the deck. It is forced to choose from whatever characters you have already in your waiting room. But the level 0 bonder that goes with him can help out with this. It is an on-play pay 1 bond, which is just great. 1 stock into 1 guaranteed card conversion is always cool, especially when it gets you your level 1 combo. Additionally, it gives all copies of the TD Minoru the Crucial Effect, which is where you get to choose from the top 2 cards of your deck, just like the level 1 for the 8-door deck that we mentioned earlier. So this will allow you to have a little bit of deck speed, but also add to your pool of cards in the waiting room that you can actually choose from for the climax combo when you eventually get to the encore step.
Yeah, and I think so playing this trial deck combo will force you to just deck build in a fairly different way compared to the Alexia combo. They are both advantage combos with Thor, but the big difference is the TD Minoru does not help you really mill. The Bonder gives each of your copies like basically 1 extra mill if you want to. But I do think this forces you to just run a level 0 line that has a bit more mill. Furthermore, I think because of the nature of this build where you do want to play like the Bonder, I do think you need a different way to incorporate stock generation. So, for example, the Alexia build works quite well with the 666 stock generator because you do have the level 1 Goldie Gilded, which can give the free startup. But in the TD Minoru build, you might consider something else. I think Randall has had a good amount of experience, I think, using the level 1 green 1/1 Rex. This would allow you to kind of make the Bonder into something that is more useful than just a attacker that doesn't kill anything. This 1/1 Rex, on play, you can choose another character and put it into stock. And then also on play, if you have 4 more other characters, you can choose a character in your waiting room and stock it as well. So this is yet another way for us to generate a little bit more stock. But in this particular build, just because of the nature of the level 1 combo, this probably fits a bit better than 666 in terms of just getting a bit more stock for our end game.
Yeah, just kind of useful for once you have played your level 1 combos and your opponent has gotten rid of them and you just like don't have another Bonder in your hand to use to get more level 1 combo or something like that, but you still have the Bonder from the last turn just like chilling on stage, you can just use the Rex and you just yeet it to stock and just open up the stage slots on stage for things that are more important moving forward.
Yeah. So as long as you can get the Pseudo Fever off of Minoru, he naturally does offer you a lot more hand fixing compared to the Alexia. So as long as we can figure out a good way to have a source of mill in our level 0 game, then he should be quite a good combo to consider for any of our level 1 options.
Mm-hmm. So that is going to do it for the level 1 advantage combos that we think are like most worth looking at. We do also have standby in this set though, so we can go ahead and talk about that real quick. I've had a bit of testing on 8 standby with there are 2 standby climaxes and 3 climax combos between those two climaxes. The level 0 Shadow is I'm gonna be completely honest, it is not super notable despite being a double rare. At the start of your climax phase, you can look at the top card of your deck and I believe it's either you leave it there or mill it. I'm gonna be completely honest, I see that card so few times in my test games that I kind of forgot what the other ability is. But the climax combo is when you start your attack phase, you can bounce him back to hand and then stand one of your characters. And so the problem with this is that you have to bring out the character off of the standby before you bounce him back to hand. So ordinarily with a lot of these level 0 standby combos, it like bounces itself back for cost and then it opens up the slot for you to put a dude there with standby. But this is the opposite. You have to play the card first and then bounce it back, and then you just have this empty slot there on your board, which is a little bit weird. Obviously, if you hit another standby, this could be pretty good, because then now you just have the open slot, but if you don't, then, awkward open slot. The 2/2s, though, I think are actually a bit more interesting. So this is a double combo featuring Mundane Man and Iris Midgar. So the Mundane Man is a 2/2 5/5 that if you have a specific level 0 underneath him as a marker, which is the level 0 is a clock yourself from hand to top check 5, add a character. Very useful card for standby decks for filling up the waiting room with potential targets, while also potentially leveling yourself up in order to enable those higher level standby targets. But if you marker that underneath him, he becomes a 9k with Hand Encore. And then additionally, the marker is gained when he comes into play from waiting room as well as from hand. So this means that if you standby him out, you immediately get the marker. Additionally, this means if he dies and you Hand Encore him back, he came into play from the waiting room, which means you can use the effect again and get the marker back. So as long as you're able to get that marker established the first time you bring him out from waiting room, then you're just pretty much good to go for every subsequent time you bring him back. His actual climax combo with the standby is going to be when you play the climax and he's in your front row, you get to salvage a character. So just free card, pretty cool. And then Iris Midgar is going to be another 2/2 that natively has Twin Drive. And then her climax combo with the same climax is at the start of the attack phase. If you have the climax in play, you can sack it, and then she stands herself. So, and then she also gains Hand Encore for 1 turn cycle when you do that. So, just a pair of 2/2s. One of them is an advantage combo, one of them is a tempo combo. Typically, the way that I have been playing these two is that I like to bring out the Mundane Man first at level 1, trying to use the level 0 combo to bring him out. And then on any subsequent turn, I can move Mundane Man to my front row and then play the duo climax combo, salvage a card while at the same time establishing Iris as another potential attacker. And the ratio that I've been going with in my build is 3 copies of the Mundane Man and 1 copy of the Iris, just because I think that establishing Mundane Man in multiples is going to be better value over time. If I'm able to get more copies of the climax, then that just means more value with more copies of Mundane Man. I'm just like getting a whole bunch of salvages. And then Iris is just kind of there as an option that you could potentially go into if the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, I think that ratio makes a lot of sense. Initially, when I read these cards, I thought that you probably want to, let's get out an Iris so then you can get her Hand Encore, she can Twin Drive, and then we can trigger and summon Mundane Man. But it does make a lot more sense to me from your description to just get as many Mundane Mans out as possible. I do think it is quite a big shame that Iris just doesn't get Hand Encore unless you specifically bring her out through her own climax combo and not Sid's. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think just having one as a tech option is quite nice. But in general, I would want to, get out as many, get the mundane going. We're boring over here. We want just
we are playing standby.
We just want big dudes, and then we want more hand, and then these big dudes give us more hand the more big dudes we have. So I think the 9k Hand Encore is just good enough where they won't easily be contested by traditional level 1 climax combos, while having the very large upside of being a standby, a 2-soul Hand Encore target that also can plus you. So I do think this can be deceptively quite good against your average 1k1.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as some of the options that you can go into for the standby, so we're not really going to be talking about most of these options later on in the video because they are very specific to standby. At level 1, we have the I can't remember which girl it is. There's so many girls.
Are you talking about the box topper?
I think is it Gamma? The one.
Okay, we can cut.
I'm not. Hold on. Let me pull up the deck real quick. I have the deck here. Hold up.
Okay. I was gonna say you can just like edit this part out and then I can look for it. But...
Nah. We just find the card. No. It is Ada, level 1 Ada. So this is a box topper promo, and it's just your typical 1175 hand encore. But you can bring this out at level 0. That could be your level 0 standby target if you happen to play or trigger one. And then in level 3s, we have the level 3 Shadow, which is it's a carbon copy of level 3 from set 1 Oshinoko, where he, I guess, is a global 1500 to all of your other characters with 10-5 base. And then at the start of the encore step, if your opponent's entire front row is reversed or completely empty, you can pay 1, discard 1, mill the top card of your deck, and burn X, where X is the level of the card you milled plus 1. So this is a fantastic card to bring out at level 2, just for the power boost to your entire board. Exactly what you want to be doing in standby. And because the 8 standby lineup doesn't natively have a finisher option, this can be your way to deal extra damage in the late game. So just very solid overall card. And then there was one other card I wanted to mention, but I just forgot off the top of my head.
Yeah, definitely the payoff would be the level 3 Shadow, which coincidentally does have his own climax combo where he can be early played through his own pants 1k1. But yeah, we're just gonna shove 4 of him in standby and call it a day. Bring out big characters. Big characters get bigger.
Oh, I remember the last card I wanted to talk about. This is one that I when I was testing with Mike, I didn't actually put in my deck yet, but after re-examining the set, I actually think this card could maybe have a place in 8 standby, and that is the level 3 Perv Asshat. So
yeah, for sure.
The first time I read this card, I didn't realize just how big this dude got. I thought it was 1k per back row or something, but this dude is 12-5 if you have a full board. And then if you have just one Shadow, he is 14k. And this card doesn't have an on-play effect. It's just on attack, you can pick a card from your opponent's waiting room, and you can put it on top of their deck or on the bottom of their deck. And so, if you are able to bring this out ASAP in the standby deck, then he can start wreaking havoc for multiple turns over the course of the rest of the game. So, if you're able to go to level 2, and then maybe if you didn't get another copy of Mundane Man combo, but you got the Sid climax, the Minoru, Sid, Shadow, the other one. If you got that standby again, then you can establish Perv Asshat immediately, and then you just start top decking nonsense from your opponent's waiting room and making it easier for you to deal damage, but also maybe even making it so that your opponent's key cards are getting stuck in their clock, and it could be really, really obnoxious. So I think that is definitely an option that is worth looking into for the 8 standby archetype.
I think that would be a great addition. And I think it's also pretty funny that the 2 best standby targets that 8 standby has in this set, the level 3 Shadow and the level 3 Perv Asshat, they both have climax combos on 2/1s that let you bring it out through a 1k1 combo.
Nah, standby.
We're just gonna trigger the power button, hit the power button, play these guys for free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that I think that pretty much sums up our 8 standby ideas.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of 8 standby, I think we can transition now into just talking about some climax combo pairings, some deck archetypes. So 8 standby is obviously one of them. There are only 2 standby in the set, so the Sid Kageno level 0 and the Mundane Man Iris climaxes would be your 8 standby. Let's talk about a bit more about 8 pants variations. Because like you said, I think these are probably going to be what people are looking into as, the Shadow plus Shadows, Charlie's Angels builds.
That's one way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah. So one thing that I really like about Shadow is obviously, besides what we talked about in terms of his inherent advantages of being big, having a lot of deck control, um, is that the set just kind of does push him as well with the Pan's Brainstorm, allowing you to filter, um, and then the level 0 Gamma, allowing you to just have a guaranteed source of extra stock. So there's just a lot of small things here and there that make it so that, for example, if we're playing the sortie finisher, we need a lot of stock for that end game, and we also need a lot of hand sculpting. And just as an example, if you have, like your Pants Brainstorm, and then you have a 3/2 in your clock, if you trigger Pants, that can basically just be a copy of your finisher. Something that I do think is very much appreciated in this set as well is there are a lot of good clocking advantage cards that they clock from waiting room instead of from top deck. So, for example, the level 0 Beta Riki is on play, pay 1, choose a character in your waiting room, and clock to bottom clock to search your deck for one level 1 or lower. And alternatively, you have the level 0 King Oriana, which is also on death, pay 1, choose a character in your waiting room, and then bottom clock it to top deck 2, add up to 2 characters. So the fact that you can rig your clock makes it so that the Pants Brainstorm gets a lot more value. Just being able to set up cards that you potentially want to add can be quite nice. And then having a source of guaranteed stock with the Gamma back row, you could even play like 1/1 Rex if you want to play 6/6/6. That can also work. So stock generation is definitely one of the the things that you need to solve with a lot of these builds. Even if it's like Beatrix top end or Sortie top end, or even the Shadow top end can appreciate more stock. So the Shadow level 1 Pants builds can just be you just have a guaranteed way of getting some extra stock. And yeah, as far as let's see, other deck building goes, a lot of my personal builds have leaned more towards having a very high level 0 concentration, which means that cards like level 0 Alpha, the 4K Coin Flipper, as well as cards like the level 0 Alexia Midgar on play discard 1 top deck 4, those might be a bit less effective. But I do appreciate that. Like, for example, had they designed the set in a way where you need experience to activate the Climax combos, compared to just having like a board condition, I think what we have here is much more preferable. Because I think if the set required you to have experience, a lot of builds would be a lot more of a headache to run, to deck build for. I think the sortie deck is definitely the highest ceiling when played properly. However, it also is the most susceptible to things like stock swap, and also just if you don't have enough stock, it's hard to pull off great finishing lines. So I do think that like figuring out a deck build where you can generate a good amount of stock consistently is very important.
Mm-hmm. Something that we were talking about though right before we started this recording was potentially using the Rose level 3, which is carbon copy of Modernia from Nikkei, as a potential option in the sortie deck. Incorporating this as part of your finisher line would reduce the stock cost of the finisher turn by 2, which could be quite nice. Obviously, it does increase the hand cost if you want to use her effect, but could be maybe like an alternative to Alpha. Like you could have a turn of like Rose plus double Delta or something like that, and it would be pretty cheap.
So that's definitely an idea, because generally speaking, like the Zeta is not a great attacker. If you see a Climax and your opponent has like a thin deck, there's no way for you to get rid of that Climax. That cancel is coming sooner rather than later. Or I guess later rather than sooner if you use the effect, but it's still coming. So having the Rose be the Icy Tail effect can potentially be quite good. And I think initially when looking at this top end, I had my doubts in terms of the effectiveness of the top end, but I think a card or a profile that really helps out this top end's effectiveness is either the level 0 perv asshat brainstorm or the 2-1 beta level assist. And both of them have the effect where you can look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck and rearrange them. Perv asshat brainstorm allows you to do it when you play a climax, and then the beta just has it as a startup effect. So the idea with this synergy is that if you have alpha, delta, delta, and you're not quite sure, you need alpha to cancel her burn in order for her to get the most effectiveness out of her climax combo. So by being able to confirm the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, you can make a better judgment as to whether or not you should attack with alpha first or delta first. Naturally, if you see a climax on the top 2, you attack with alpha first, and that guarantees that she will activate multiple burns. But if those are clean, then you can just attack with delta first and then get that guaranteed burn 2 in. So the existence of either the perv asshat or the 2-1 beta support, I think, catapults this finisher's effectiveness into a very, very real threat to your opponent.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of in the same sense that like Lico Rico can really make use of the top check 2, the opponent's deck knowledge when they're deciding whether to attack with a Takina first or Chisato first. That being said, I do think between the 2 options that you have presented, those being the Brainstorm and the Beta, we did already establish that the stock cost for this deck is quite high, so maybe pursuing the level 2 Beta as your back row could be maybe the straw that breaks the camel's back in this case.
Yeah, I think in Sortie in particular, at least from our preliminary kind of brainstorming and a little bit of testing, she's not as effective compared to just being in other builds, just because of the stock cost. The beta is quite a good card, being able to top check the top card of your own deck during both the start of your main phase and the start of your climax phase. So it's kind of just being able to, like, for example, play the 2-1 the future devil from Chainsaw Man without actually needing to like have a marker. So this card is actually quite insane, but it doesn't quite utilize those effects the same way as like something else, like for example, I play this. I think I play this card in like the Shadow top end. I think that can work quite well. But yeah, having Perv Asshat as just a level 0 that you can just find at some point in the game, and then plop down on the field, and then just make sure that your alphas can get the value is quite nice.
Mm-hmm. I do think though, like I considered the 2-1 beta in the Stock Soul top end build that I was messing around with, and like the thing that I just kept coming back to with this card though was that for pretty much every finisher that is not Sortie, I feel like this top check 2 and also top checking your own deck, it just doesn't do anything. Like if I have triple Beatrix, what is the top deck knowledge on either player's deck going to affect in my endgame? Or if I have triple Gaunt Knight, what is that going to affect? I'm still going to do the same thing no matter what. So that's why in the Gaunt Knight deck, I ended up dropping the beta for that 2-1 Aurora. That could be the 2-1, that could be the 2-1 2K assist. Because I just felt like while the utility is there, it wasn't really doing anything. Unless I like establish the card at level 2 immediately, and then I can start doing things with it immediately. But I just felt like I didn't really have good incentive to do so. And that's why I feel like if you were going to play beta, I feel like the deck to play it in would be Sortie Trio top end. But it's just hard to fit because of how much stuff you already have to do in that top end.
Right. I think just based off of what I have kind of come to terms with decklist wise, I probably wouldn't play it in Sortie because there's just a lot of slots competing for a lot of cards competing for that slot, like Gamma back row, for example. But there's like some utility and stuff. The deck that I think can probably have it fit in is the Shadow top end. And the reason is, in my head, I think that deck can play the mid-game, early play heal game plan quite well because the top end is a bit more resource light. So being able to play a level assist that can boost your early play Epsilon can be quite nice, make her a little bit more sticky. But also, I think if you want to play 666, it can also help you confirm attack orders for 666. and things like that. But overall, I do agree with you. I think information is never bad, but the particular synergy that top deck information might have is definitely just in the sortie build with the level 3 alpha. So fortunately, we don't have to decide if we want to cost this option for the top check 2 on your opponent's deck. We have Perf Asset, which, my gosh, that is just such a wonderful
What a card.
What a card. What a guy.
Okay, so after that, we also have the... Well, I mean, did we have anything that we wanted to add for 8 Pants archetypes, or do you think that's like specific to those decks?
Right.
I guess we could take a sec to talk about I Am the All Range Atomic event. So
yeah, let's do that.
What I think is really interesting... Okay, well, first of all, let's establish what this event does. It's a 1/1 event. You play the event, reveal the top card of your deck, salvage level extra lower, and then you send the event to memory. And then while it's in memory, at the start of your opponent's attack phase, you can pay 1 and send 3 copies of this event from memory to your waiting room in order to choose one of your opponent's characters and give it -3 soul for the turn. So, being a blue event, the places that you would want to have this... The places that you are most likely to start considering this event would be in decks that already have level 1 blue combo. That being the Shadow level 1. The problem with that is that Shadow level 1 whiffs on this thing if you want to add 2 cards to your hand off the combo, which is unfortunate. So, I feel like you are probably more incentivized to try to put this into decks that don't have a blue level 1 combo and play this as like an off-color event. But then... Yes. Yeah, what do you have any thoughts on that?
So what I think is, if you want to play this event, you naturally have to play 4 copies because you need 3 in memory. How I view this event is, I think the payoff can potentially be worth it. The -3 soul that is fairly non-interactive. However, you do have to just realize that Shadow will basically just never get a +2. And it's not like we're saying that you should aim for Shadow +2s. We did say that, fishing for a +2 can potentially be your downfall. However, it is nice to be able to get that +2 when you are out of climaxes, and running 4 extra whiffs can potentially just ruin the game for you. That being said, this event does have quite a lot of cool tricks and combos. So, for example, so the event top checks and the salvage is a level extra lower. If you top check or 1 or higher, then you can confirm that you can get the stock back through stock jetting through 666. Furthermore, if you top check and it's a card that you have another copy of in your waiting room, you can play the level 0 Zeta, which has the unplay effect of putting the top card of your deck face down underneath her as a marker. And then when she's reversed in battle, reveal that marker. And then if it's a card that has the same name as a card you have in your waiting room, you can add it to hand. So you no longer have that information as blind information. So the salvage event can, like, if you need something that you see there, you can grab the Zeta, and then you basically get a free +1. The 2/1 Edda support also is a way for you to consistently be able to get 3 copies of the event through multiple turns into your hand. And then she also has the effect where once per turn, where when you use an event, you can draw in this one. So if you top check and it is a card that you want in hand, you can also just draw and pitch it. So there's a lot of synergy they can play around, top deck information, things like that. And I think if you did want to play that kind of attrition type of game plan, it is quite a heavy stock cost, but there are a decent amount of playable stock generators in this set. 1/1 Rex, level 0 Gamma if you play the 1/0 Shadow, 666, even the 2/1 Epsilon PR if you want to go that route. I think the potential's there, but from my initial kind of just testing or just thinking about the economy of this card, both in terms of the deck slots that's required and also the stock generation, the stock that's required, it's a bit hard to justify, I think. I think in particular also because the level 3 Epsilon early play healer exists. And that's a card that you basically just want to play in almost every deck. And she has built-in minus soul. So like if you want a little bit of defensive mitigation, you just have a card that like you already want to play anyways, as the only 4 or more early play healer in the set. And then she just has built-in minus soul. So yeah. It's a really cool card, but I'm not sure if it'll find a place in builds given what the rest of the set has to offer.
Yeah, we've like mentioned Epsilon early play heal like in passing multiple times over the course of this video, but we should probably just establish this card is bonkers. Like, literally, what is this card? It's an early play healer, 4 or more, and it just has this minus soul text on her. It's just there. It's like, and this is a rare. This card is crazy. This could have easily been a double rare.
Yeah, this could have been a double rare instead of hold on, let me check the name of this guy. Xenon Griffey. Yeah, I don't know why Xenon Griffey has a double rare, but yeah, this card is definitely double rare status. It's also, I think, the basis of why the Shadow top end is viable, because you do have a good way to leverage any extra resources you have into playing that level 2 attrition game plan, and then still being able to go into level 3 with only 4 stock and still getting essentially triple burn 3, triple swing. Mm-hmm. Without this card, I don't think that Shadow build would be very good.
Yeah, I think like the Epsilon early play healer, it can just go into so many things. Like when I was building 8 standby, literally one of the first cards that I added to the list was I knew I was gonna just chuck 4 of this early play heal into the deck because it's just so easy to use. Yeah, just a very one of the best blue cards in the set. One of the reasons that you would want to splash blue into your deck.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Is there really any? Are there any like additional pieces in 8 door that we should talk about? So we've already talked about. Obviously, we've already talked about the combos. We've talked about that 1-0 back row. I guess one thing to mention would be the brainstorm. So 8 door does basically have its own brains. You don't even need to necessarily run this in 8 door. Like I run it in 4 door for Stock Soul. But it is a brainstorm 4 salvage per climax, and then continuous effect. All of your door climax triggers in all zones gain a soul trigger icon. This is obviously at a base level. This is just useful for adding extra damage to your swings if you happen to trigger a door climax. But it does also add in an extra synergy with a level 0. I don't know the girl's name. What is this?
Anne Rose. Level 0 Anne Rose.
Level 0 Anne Rose. So this Anne Rose is on death. You can reveal up to 3 cards from the top of your deck, and then you can choose up to 1 card from among them with a soul trigger and add it to hand, and then you have to discard a card. So notably, this does allow you to add climaxes that have soul triggers. So I did consider it in my door stock soul build, because as long as I have a brainstorm on the board, her effect would allow me to add any climax to my hand if I saw one. And then I realized that there are just not enough good soul triggers in the set to really justify this, because if you miss, you still have to discard a card. Like, if you don't reveal a soul trigger in the top 3, you still got to discard a card, which sucks. So I just ended up cutting the card. And also, just like, if you don't have the brainstorm on the board, then it just makes it even worse.
Yeah, and on top of that, the set does have the PR shadow, is the box topper shadow, where it just also has on death, look at the top 3, add a climax if you see one. And that does not minus you if you don't see a climax. So if the purpose is to add climaxes, then there is just a better card. I think the Anne Rose, probably the idea that I am imagining is you run Potato.
You're supposed to try to run Potato and
Skeletal.
Yeah.
And then those guys have soul triggers. So you can just add those guys. So I kind of want to build that deck. I honestly think that deck, and I don't know what I want to build it in, but
I was messing around with those two for a sec. They're actually quite funny with the 1/1 Rex. because you can just kind of like you can like shuffle between them and be like, yeah, I'm gonna send this to stock, and then I'm gonna pay it out, and then I'm gonna rebond into it, and then like, hey, look at what I can do. It's pretty funny.
That's funny. But yeah, going back to 8-door though. So the +1 soul effect does stack. So it's like if you want to be a little bit funny, or if you know your opponent is like out a bunch of climaxes, you're like, all right, I'm gonna bet a Riki Surge for another brainstorm, plop 2 brainstorms down, slam a 1k1, and hope I can trigger some more doors, and then just absolutely destroy your opponent. Or they could do nothing. It doesn't activate unless you actually trigger.
Yeah. On the flip side, I have actually considered, and I have seen a couple other people talking about this. When you go into your Beatrix finisher turn, do you think it's ever a consideration that you just play over your brainstorm? Because
definitely.
If you whiff on the Beatrix combo, that means you are revealing a door climax, and if you have the brainstorm on the board, that would just add extra soul that you don't necessarily want. Potentially 2 extra soul if you trigger multiple doors in one attack. So we have brought up the idea of playing over your brainstorm and just not having it be there anymore, and then having your field be like Beatrix, 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 and the 1-0 back row to give the crucias.
Right. I definitely think that is probably the correct line of play, unless you specifically need those instances of 4. I think that was one of the downsides of like Enterprise, is that like you're playing pants, so if you trigger pants, she'll just swing for 4+. Mm-hmm. So I do like the fact that you can kind of quote unquote kind of adjust the soul, but I do think most of the time you do want to get rid of the brainstorm by the time you get to level 3, or worst case, just play over it. I can imagine lines such as like you play 2 Beas, and then for your final slot you play a Rex first, the 1/1 Rex, to get rid of the brainstorm, and then that can be a +1 stock. And that could be the difference between you getting the prerequisite amount of stock for triple Bea or not. Things like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, over swinging with Bea is definitely not the way to go. So, I think as long as you can just determine when you don't need the brainstorm anymore, you can just like, oh, okay, next turn I'm going into Bea combo no matter what. I can push my brainstorm into the front row and just attack with it and hold my hand. Things like that. Yeah. It shouldn't be too much of a downside. Just play around it. And I do think the upside can be quite good. Just being able to have all your plussing triggers have +1 soul. We all know all those games where we're at 1-4, and then our opponent swings for 2, and they trigger for 3, and we go to 2-0. And that going to 2-0 can be the difference between hyper compression at 1-6 or losing all your compression at 2-0. So I do think that is not to be underestimated, that extra soul.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much all the tech we have for specifically 8-door.
I think so.
The last of the deck archetypes that we haven't really explored too much is going to be the one that I've been working on, which is Alexia Door. So that's the cigarettes combo into Gaunt Knight Stock Soul. So obviously, I know what I've been working on, but did you have any questions about? Because I sent a deck list of my most recent version. Did you have any questions or comments on some of the cards? Maybe some discussion point. I guess the level 0 Alexia. I guess probably.
Yeah, I think level. Okay, so here's the thing. I think one of the things that Randall and I have kind of realized is that there is just not a lot of good red splashables in the set for level 0s. There are very, very little options. You have basically the Alexia that's on play discard 1, top check 4, add up to 1 level and higher. Basically the double rare free run from free run.
From free run.
Free run from free run. Yeah, and then you have the 1/5 Alexia, where she has a on-play top check, and then if it's a character added underneath her as a marker, she becomes 3/5 with the marker, and then when damage that you receive during her battle is cancelled, you can bounce her back to hand. So like for builds that don't run the Iris Brainstorm, you really don't have that many other red cards to play.
Even in builds that run the Iris Brainstorm, because I'm running the Iris Brainstorm in this deck, and it still feels like I don't have enough red.
Yeah. Like for example, I've tried to slash some red in other builds, like pants, just to run a couple of tech cards like the level 3 Rose, Modernia, or the level 3 Alexia early play healer. But there's just no red, so I'm just like, I have 24 zeros right now, but I have 22 zeros right now, but I'm still going to dedicate 2 slots for like the on-play free rent top check 4. But I do think that the 3/5 beater Alexia can be quite good. Ever since we've had the on-play top check marker type of beater profile at level 0, it's always been just pretty good because it can also help you with mid-game brainstorms. Just getting a clean card out of the way so you can brainstorm for 5, or you don't even need to add the marker, and then you can just have it as a confirmed trigger or something. But yeah, I think as far as Gaunt Knight decks go, so one thing I am curious about is, do you think there's ever a world in which, like, for example, in your build, you would play like 5/3, or like 6/2 or something? Or do you think 4/4 is probably ideal? And then also conversely, like if you think that like if we go to Shadow level 1, for example, do you think that like 5 or 6 pans 2 stock soul or 5/3 6/2 is right? What do you think about that?
I think in this build, I think you kind of have to go 4/4. There's just like not okay, specifically just because I dropped the Pervy Asshat Brainstorm, because the way I want to play my back row in the game is I want to have an Iris Salvage Brainstorm, and then my other slot is going to be the Aurora, like Aurora level 0, and then transition it into Aurora level 2. Like that's just kind of the way that I have my back row set up in this deck. So I feel like you kind of need to run 4, at least in the way I'm playing the deck. Having 4 stock souls, like, not even bad, because if you run King Oriana, which is like the on death, pay 1, clock 1, top check 2, add 2, you can just afford to slam random stock soul.
That is true.
With the idea that you can get the hand back with King Oriana. But yeah, like it can be a little bit of a pain to find your stock soul for the late game if you don't just like hold on to it from the late game.
For Doris stock soul, I can see that for sure.
Yeah,
especially since Gaunt Knight doesn't have on-play cantrip.
Yeah, going back to the Alexia level 0 though for a sec, we were discussing the differences. Like between ourselves, we were discussing the differences between this card and the level 0 Epsilon. So the level 0 Epsilon is on play, you can look it up to 2, and you can mark her up to 2 characters. And for each marker, she gets 1,000 power. So she can go up to 4,000 power, and then she can essentially also just function as like a free mill 2. Whereas Alexia can go up to 3/5 power just for getting 1 marker. And then she also has this random bonus bounce back effect, which longtime viewers of the Tressa's channel will know, oh, we love this effect so much. We love when our opponent gets a random plus for free while canceling damage. Very cool. I honestly
get richer.
I honestly think I did kind of underestimate this card, though, a bit. 3,500 is, like, it's not a small number, and then sometimes you just, like, randomly get this card back into your hand. And then, as Mike was saying, having the extra top check filter to, like, maybe turn your Brainstorm into a Brainstorm 5 is really, really cool. With a 1k1, sometimes 4/5 is just enough to beat over random low opponent's turn power climax combos, like the Shadow, level 1. Which is 4k defense, and then sometimes this can just like bounce back again during the mid game. Another thing that I think is cool about this card, though, is that compared to the Epsilon, Alexia can never mess up your brainstorms. She can only ever extend your brainstorm. Whereas with the Epsilon, if you use her effect on play and you show a climax off of the top check 2, it's just falling into your waiting room. So you can't do anything with it. You just mill it. But with Alexia, like if you play Alexia and you reveal a climax on top of your deck, you can just immediately brainstorm. And then it also has some pretty nice synergy with the 1/1 Rex, the green 1/1 Rex, because now that your Alexia has basically like done all she can, you can play Rex and you can just like send her to stock. And you will have already gotten a +1 off of the brainstorm guaranteed because you top check a climax. So
Yeah. I think the two cards, while on the surface, they can seem like very similar profiles. Both get markers. Markers make them bigger. I do think because of that particular difference in terms of being able to leave the turret on top or not, they are just going to be vastly different cards in terms of their pros and cons once you leave the level 0 game. So the way I view Epsilon is the pros would be that it is a beater that can potentially mill too. So I can see that if you perhaps play a early game climax combo that doesn't mill, for example, the TD Minoru, you could play just a beater that can just kind of do a little bit of accelerating deck state for you. Once you hit level 1, you have more targets in the waiting room that you can potentially salvage and just try to accelerate towards a level 1 refresh. The other thing I think I would consider Epsilon to be is that naturally, it just wouldn't be able to have the same type of role that Alexia does in terms of giving you a 5-card brainstorm. But what I do like about it, for example, is let's say you might have like 1 or 2 cards left in deck, and then you can just use Epsilon, and then you can make sure that if you want to get rid of those climaxes that are remaining in your deck, you can go back with a good refresh. And then lastly, it's a bit more niche, but the level 0 Epsilon does specifically have a 2-card combo with the box topper Epsilon. The 2/1 Epsilon box topper is 2k base. During your turn, she gets plus 10k. On play, you can choose up to 2 copies of the level 0 Epsilon in your waiting room and put them underneath her as markers. And then when damage dealt by her is cancelled, you can choose up to 2 markers in your underneath her and then put them on the bottom of your stock. So initially, I thought this was just not playable. The 2/1 Epsilon only has 1 soul, and you also need to run the level 0 Epsilons, which by themselves, I don't think they're necessarily like great cards. But I was just testing with other ways to generate more stock in, for example, the sortie build. So here's the way I was able to kind of like convince myself to do it. So initially, I was running like level 0 Alpha, just the double rare 4k coin flip, but I ran too many zeros, so she just whiffed too often, so I just didn't want to run her anymore. So I decided to try the level 0 Epsilons, and then I put in a 2/1 PR Epsilon just to see if I could kind of get some extra stock and just have a level 2 presence. But Perv Asshat can actually make her a lot more reliable. Kind of in the same vein that like Perv Asshat makes the sortie level 3 Alpha reliable, she can make 2/1 Epsilon reliable. 8 Pants generally plays the climax every single turn, so on the turn that you play the 2/1 Epsilon with her markers, when you play climax, Perv Asshat allows you to top check 2, and then if there's a climax amongst those 2, you attack with Epsilon first, and then you get that guaranteed 2 stock, which is clean on the bottom of your stock. And then if not, then you attack with something else first. So that is something that I appreciated about the Epsilon. That's not to say about Epsilon herself, but it's also just like a side, like, if you want a blue beater, you have a couple of mill options. You play the 2/1 Epsilon. With Perv Asshat, it can be a little bit of a combo. But a bit of a tangent, but yeah, I do think that Alexia can be quite good. Just 1, she's red, 2, she's a beater, and then 3, she has mid-game use. So a pretty unassuming card, but I do think in the right build, in the hands of a right pilot, she can be quite beneficial.
Mm-hmm. And then one last thing about the Epsilon level 0. So I was trying this in 8 standby as well. And so the idea behind playing it in 8 standby was you don't have to marker what you reveal, even if they're characters.
Yeah, you can't just mill them.
So you can just mill them. So like if I don't have a standby target in my waiting room and I want to try to get a standby target in my waiting room, I can play Epsilon, top check 2, and then it's like, oh, I found a 1/1 Ada. I'm going to not marker this, and I'm going to put it in my waiting room, and I'm play standby, and I'm going to get my Ada out. So you do things like that. So I think that is also some pretty niche, but definitely applicable utility for that card.
Yeah, Epsilon is a pretty unique card. It's not one that I think normally one would consider as just a generic beater, but yeah, these are just some of the kind of like edge cases or scenarios in which like I think it can potentially see use. And at the end of the day, just if you play her at the end of your deck rotation, she has 2 markers, and you attack 3 times. It's like, oh, that's like 2 more cards that you got in your compression. It's just like a little bit of market compression. But yeah. Is that basically all the climax combo kind of general archetypes that we wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I believe so. And then after this, we can talk about just some like generally good cards that we haven't really been able to like tack on to any of these packages. So let's see. Just like pretty much all of the blue cards that we wanted to talk about were associated with one of the packages in some way or another.
Yeah.
And then
let's talk about the level 3 Iris Alarm. This card is really good. So level 3 Iris, she has on play. You can activate the following effect twice. Choose one of your opponent's characters, and they swap it with a character that's lower level than the character on their stage. As you do this twice, you can double shrink. And then she also has an alarm effect where at the start of your climax phase, if she's on the top card of your clock, you can pay one, discard one, burn one. I really appreciate that this can be done no matter the level. So if you are, for example, like I think this is just another tool in Shadow level 3's arsenal that you can potentially consider. Any extra resources can just be converted into more burns. And especially in the Shadow deck where you have just a very low stock threshold. If you are kind of like okay on hand, you can clock the Iris and then you can just get in a burn one in the middle of the game and then kind of just increment, like slowly pushing a little bit damage here and there. For builds that might want to exercise like 3-2 Delta as an additional pay 2 burn 1, the Iris essentially can be a pay 1 discard 1 burn 1 instead of pay 2. So if you are playing a deck that doesn't have as much extra stock to work with, but you have extra hand, then the Iris Alarm can help you convert that extra hand into a burn 1 as well. And I do like that card quite a lot.
I haven't tested it, but I feel like this card would have pretty good use case in the Stock Soul top end, because as we were saying, the Stock Soul top end isn't particularly stock heavy. You can do triple combo with just 6 stock, and then it's not particularly hand heavy either, with just requiring the Climax plus 3 discards. So if you have an extra stock and hand that you can use for this, then you could just do that. And then also the Gaunt Knight combo, when it heals from the bottom of your clock as well. So it would allow you to maintain the Iris Alarm on top of your clock for you to actually utilize rather than healing it off. So that could be some pretty good synergy.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about more about 1/1 Rex, because we have brought up 1/1 Rex quite a lot over this video, but I think if I want to, if there's something that I think I want listeners to walk away with about this card after watching this video, is that I do want people to give this card a shot. I think this card is deceptively good, and it might not be super apparent why. Because just like a 1/1 green, it's like 1/1 green guy that's just like, oh, I'll play clean stock, I'll play -1.
It's like a 1/0 vanilla with hoops.
Exactly, but the hoops are mostly good. So I really appreciate this. In for example, like if I trigger like first attack or second attack last turn, I can brainstorm, and then if it's a second card, I can, if I don't actually want to pay more stock, but I want to get that climax out of my stock, I can play the 1/1 Rex and then pay the climax out and put a clean card in. But also, Eminence and Shadow, just like every other Weiss set, has a lot of good level 0s that have a lot of good on-play effects, or maybe some cards that, once they might be good in the early game, and then they might not be as good in the mid-game. So we were talking about like the TD Bonder, things like that. You can just recycle those into stock, which is just, I think, I personally really underappreciated it when I first read the card. But once I slot it into my deck, it just worked super, super well. And it's very fortunate too, because the set does have King Oriana as really good level 0 plussing advantage to be able to splash enough green for Rex in basically any build. But yeah, you've played a little bit about. We've talked about this card a little bit, and you've played a little bit with it. What do you have anything more to add about this card, or any cool like other things?
No, it's It's really just like one of my favorite things to do in Weiss is to be able to just like pay out dirty stock and then just like immediately replace it with a guaranteed clean stock. It just feels so good. And this card just does that. And it is like such a when you just look at the card on the board, it just looks so unimpressive. And then you think about what the card actually like. It's like a quality of life card. It's not particularly impressive, but it just makes your overall game just feel better in a way that other cards in the set are just not able to do. Well, most other cards. Like Alexia Twin Drive Crush is probably like the next best thing.
Yeah. Here's the thing that I really appreciate about this card. So I play this card in the context of the sortie build. And in the sortie build, I always want to get to 9 stock. 9 stock is the magic threshold for 1 alpha and double delta and being able to resolve any of them in any order. 9 stock is not easy to get to. And a lot of games, it might just go fast enough where like you might just have like 8 stock going into turn. There, to my knowledge, is not another way for you to get stock during the main phase. But Rex gives you stock during the main phase. So like other stock charge abilities like 666 and 2-1 Epsilon, things like that, and even level 0 Gamma, which combos with the 1-0 Shadow, those don't actually give you stock on main phase. So one thing that I really appreciate is, for example, I do play the Shadow deck, the sortie deck with both the level 0 Gamma and level 1 Rex. I can play Gamma, and that basically becomes a free brainstorm. So I can brainstorm for more resources, and then I can just play like level 3 Alpha, and then I have double back row of brainstormers, and then I can play Rex as my 5th slot and get rid of either the brainstorm that I just tapped or the level 0 Gamma, which I don't need anymore. Right? So the Gamma gave me 1 pseudo free stock because I wanted to brainstorm, and then the Rex actually gives me 1 stock. So if I started the turn with 8 stock, I can just magically get to 9 or even 10 stock that turn while being very productive with my plays, like brainstorming and things like that. So that is one thing that I really, really, really like. After I put Rex in my deck, I was just like, okay, I think sortie is like way more consistent now. Because previously, you kind of just had to rely on just the game going a certain kind of pace in order for you to get to the 9 stock threshold. And then if you didn't, that top end just felt really, really bad. But it's really nice knowing that like you do have this very consistent way of getting extra stock on your main phase.
Yeah, he's just a role player.
Yeah, he's definitely like, you know, 6th man of the year if you are like a basketball fan. He's on the bench, but then when you need to call him in for like the 2 minutes he plays in the 48-minute game, like he just hustles. He just works hard. He grabs the rebounds. He like defends well. You know, Rex is just the guy that makes winning plays, and the winning play here is you just get stock, and we love stock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rex just an overall really good card. He just does things that like even a normal hand of stock just wouldn't be able to do, like pay stock and then immediately replace it. Normal hand of stocks just don't do that.
Yeah, pay stock and replace it, and also use an on-play effect and then replace that.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Super good. All right, next card that we haven't mentioned, but let's just briefly bring it up. The set does have a clean cut in the trial deck. It's a Sid in his baby form. So if you do want a 3K clean cut, it is possible.
Yeah, just for the record, we have like in our like outline, we have like notable like level 1 and higher cards section. So now we're getting into like the level 0s because
right.
If you're looking for like cards to just like fill out a color, you would look to the level 0s mainly. So Clean Cut Sid is like our first like blue one
that we haven't mentioned yet. So like other ones would be like the level 0 Alpha Beater, the level 0 Beta Riki if you want blue. For red, we talked about the level 0 Alexia Freerin, but also the Alexia 3/5 marker. For green, there is surprisingly a decent amount of green cards. Mm-hmm. King Oriana is the Aqua effect that we talked about. Pervasa Brainstorm. No harm in putting like 1 or 2 in any deck. We talked a little bit about the Alexia Twin Drive Crush card. She has the effect where on attack you can pay 1 Twin Drive, but also on attack on the same timing you can look at the top card up to the top 2 cards of your deck and choose up to one to leave on top and build the other one. I really like this card quite a lot. I compare this card very favorably to the likes of Gajeel from the recently released Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest set, where it's just a very unassuming card. It has a twin drive, and it has a beneficial second effect. So it can never really be a bad card to play. And some games, for example, if you're at level 0 and you tri-lane, and then you don't have any information or ways to pay out stock about like the top card of your deck, and you just first trigger Climax on your tri-lane, and you just feel terrible. Alexia allows you to just mitigate those potentials. So similarly, if you are near the end of your deck, if you have maybe like 2 Climaxes and like 5 or 6 cards, having the Alexia as one of your attackers can just be a big insurance. If you do trigger a Climax, not only can you pay out that Climax before refresh, but you also get to double trigger so that you go closer towards cleaning out your Climaxes, but also the Crush effect allows you to not trigger another Climax. So I do quite like this card. Do you have anything to add about this card before we go on to just like just one last green card?
I personally I like tried the card a little bit, but then like I kind of just decided that if I wanted to clean out my stock, I felt like Rex was just like a better way to do it, because I just value not having to put a super weenie attacker in my front row over being able to use her like Crush with Twin Drive to like guarantee the triggers are clean. So I personally strayed away from the Alexia Twin Drive Crush after having tried it out, just in favor of like a more conventional 0 line. But I definitely think that like it's a good card to consider for all the reasons that Mike just gave. You just have to be conscious of the fact that this card is like only 1k power. This card's not going to be killing very much of anything.
Yeah, for sure. So it's like, generally speaking, if I'm like tri-laning at 0, it's like, oh, I want my other 2 lanes to actually be killing something. Alexia is just going to be a weenie. But yeah, this is definitely just like a super utility card. So she's probably not going to be killing many things. Speaking of cards that are not going to be killing many things, but it's a super utility, one last card I wanted to bring up that we haven't yet mentioned is the level 0 green Possessed. The card's name is literally Possessed, and it has on play and on attack. You can discard a card to choose a character in your clock, add it to hand, and then clock the top card of your deck into clock. I really like this card. Specifically because the clock plussing options in this set all clock from Waiting Room. King Oriana and the level 0 beta both give you selective Waiting Room access alongside Possess, basically. So there have been times where like maybe I just got a Climax combo hit as damage at level 0. I can just use Possess to grab it. And then sometimes, the new card that comes from the top of the deck is another card that I want. So I can just attack with Possess and filter into another good card, So it's a good way to just get rid of Climaxes, get rid of level 3s, things like that. It has use throughout the entire game. If you are trying to assemble your level 3 game at level 2, and then one of them is your clock, you can use Possess to just grab it immediately. So I do quite like this card. I have it as like a one of in a lot of like variations of the list that I have been brainstorming so far.
Yeah, I do think that like if you are playing it as a one of, it's like not really a card that you would want to level then if you don't have to, or like you wouldn't want to use it for color if you don't have to. And I feel like
not for color, sorry.
Yeah,
just a green card.
Yeah, just is a green card. Like that being said, in that same vein of like good utility one-ofs that you could include in your deck, ones that we didn't have listed on our outline but I think are quite notable to bring up anyway, would be both of the level 0 news. So one of them is an on attack and on play drop search. That card's pretty good, and it can also like clean out your stock on the fly in the same way that the Alexia Twin Drive Crush can. That being said, you would be going -1 stock in order to get the search utility rather than replacing it with a Twin Drive. The other new is an on-play Ditch Climax Search, And it is also an on-attack buffer. Can buff one of your other characters up to 2,000 power. That card's also pretty good. And what was the other one I had in mind?
The PR level 0.
PR level 0.
I believe it is Gamma. It's Gamma.
Yeah. This one is on play. If you have 2 or more other characters, you can draw a card, and if you do, discard a card. And then also on play, you can pay 1 and sack one of your other characters in order to salvage a character from waiting room. So I think that card is also a very solid utility option. All 3 of those definitely could just slot into pretty much any deck.
Yeah, no shortage of good utility options in Eminence and Shadow, that's for sure.
Yeah. And then we also do have 2 Climax Swappers available. Notably, neither of them are your traditional pay 1, ditch a Climax, salvage a Climax. So the first one is going to be the Trial Deck Minoru. This one is a sack another character on stage, Climax swap from deck.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is the Beta Box Topper promo, which is, I think, the first time we've ever seen a Clock Yourself Climax swap, and it Climax swaps from waiting room. This card is
crazy,
pretty bonkers. Like
crazy.
It's like, wow, I'm at 2-6 and I really want to level myself up to use my finisher combo, but I also don't have the right Climax. Wouldn't it be cool if I had a card that does both of those things at once without costing stock? That's pretty good. So
yeah, I do like that they are trying new costs for like Climax swappers and like drop searchers and whatever. This set has plenty of them with the PR Gamma, PR Beta, but yeah, that's crazy. Like not needing to -1 stock or hand. Again, like there's a reason why things like the Riki profile is good. Is because especially the game of Weiss, you level upping is a good thing to get to the next power level, but also saving stock and trading your resources in lieu of taking damage in lieu of spending resources is good, especially early game. So not actually needing to use any resources for a Climax swap is kind of like, I guess, this new concept. And yeah, it's amazing. It's great.
It's like good for the same reason like Takemichi's crazy, because like Takemichi is like, you clock yourself to gain a stock. And it's like, well, I wanted to clock myself anyway, so I might as well get a stock out of it.
Yeah, like I want a duel in there. I want to hit level 1 anyways. I'm going to get a stock by that on the way.
And then this card, same deal. It's like, wow, I wanted to level myself up anyways. I might as well get a Climax swap out of it for free.
Yeah.
Pretty cool card. And like if you don't even... Wait, hold on. Yeah. Like, okay, so you have to have... No, you don't. Wait. Yeah, like if you are just like at level, if you are just at 2-6, and like you don't even need to Climax swap, you can just play this and just be like, I'm gonna go up.
Yeah, like I've definitely like, all right, well, I need to hit level 3. All right, play Beta.
I'm level 3.
That's it. That's it.
And sack her for Shadow, salvage 2 shadows, and go.
Yep, exactly. There. We don't have a traditional Climax swap, but the 2 we have cover the bases quite well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's all of the cards that we wanted to talk about that we didn't already talk about in the midst of our deck discussions and stuff. There's a lot of really interesting cards in Eminence and Shadow. There's a lot of interesting builds. So let's wrap this video up with just a little bit of our overall impressions, at least based on just some initial brainstorming, reading over the set, maybe shadow testing some builds a little bit. Let's go with like, how strong do you think Eminence is? Just like very vaguely, like not necessarily like a specific tier, but it's like, what are our thoughts right now? And also like maybe like what's like your favorite build, or what builds do you think have the most potential to be like, the build?
Mm-hmm. So am I going first, or?
So I can go first.
Okay.
So I think, just like how we started this video, I think Randall mentioned that a lot of people just weren't super enthusiastic about the competitive potential of the set. I think I would put myself in that same vein, especially because initially I just didn't think of a way to be able to Like, for example, the Sortie deck seemed like it was too reliant on having a bunch of stock. Blah, 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 blah. But, like, I feel like the set just has barely enough tools to be able to go into whatever game plan that you want to go into pretty consistently. And if you can't go into the end games that you want to go into, I think Sortie is extremely powerful and quite explosive. I think the Shadow level 3 is, while Bushu might think it's just a meme combo because they put it as a common, I actually think it's quite playable. And you can go into just like a heal attrition level 2 game plan with a level 3 Epsilon early play healers, and then you can still go to Shadow. And I kind of see it as like a, well, I'm going to play my mid game, and then I can still like stock swap triple Marin combo as a very like rough example of like the resource comparison.
Mm-hmm.
I can still stock swap into triple Shadow. So I think that build is pretty cool. Overall impressions, I think competitively, I think I would not be surprised if Eminence and Shadow did, well. Like I think every deck in Weiss can do it well locals. I think Eminence and Shadow is like definitely more than powerful enough to win some locals and stuff. I think time will tell. I think people will definitely refine lists, and then we'll really see if it has the competitive viability to stand up to the best of the rest, especially in this current Worlds format where we have the likes of Oshinoko, Bane Dream, Overlord, etc., etc. I think it probably does have an uphill battle to climb, to fight. But at the same time, I would not be surprised if like one of these Eminence and Shadow builds just like actually just wrecks face at Worlds. I would not be surprised at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very solid deck. It's a very solid set. I'm pleasantly surprised compared to my initial impressions. I do not like a lot of the design choices in the set, though, in particular in regards to how many green cards there are. There are just like I would prefer, like, I'm not even a fan of Eminence and Shadow, the show, but like all the girls only have 2 to 3 cards in the booster, and I think that's it. That's a travesty. Like we have like 4 per pass cards.
All of the Shadows girls, right? Because there are even girls outside of the Shadows that have more cards than the Shadows, right?
Yeah, Alexia has more cards than all of the Shadows. And then we just have a bunch of other cards that just like, that's not what people want. So I feel like we didn't need to have a whole archetype for green with all those cards. So I think that was a bit of a design blunder. And if we just look specifically at the card text, I think this set is more than fine. I think this set is actually quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Randall?
I would agree that I think that, like, as in terms of like a locals perspective, like I would definitely be down to like bring this to locals and have the expectation to like I could win with this. That being said, I do want to tackle this from a bit of a different angle. I think that out of the decks that we have examined today, I feel like the ones that have the highest chance of success, or at least like the packages that have the highest chance for success, would be the Beatrix and Gaunt Knight packages. And the reason for that is because of the meta at the time of this recording, including decks like Nazarick, aka Overlord, and Nikke. And those 2 decks in particular revolve around, or not revolve around, but like their game plan can utilize a very powerful defensive counter in the late game. And for a set like Beatrix, having the ability to completely shut down those defensive utilities, I think could be extremely powerful, and would be the reason that I would put it above the blue archetypes. Okay, well actually no. I guess Shadow level 3 is probably fine in that same regard, because like, what are they going to
rest? He just attacks once.
Yeah, what are they going to rest counter, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess.
But Sortie in particular is very susceptible to counterplay.
Yeah. So I guess if we're going to look at these decks contextually, I would say Sortie is on the weaker end.
Because of the current meta.
Because of the current meta, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And
then Gaunt Knight has the ability to turn off events. I think I might have forgotten to mention that earlier when we were talking about the card, but his continuous effect does make it so that your opponent cannot play events during his battle.
Mm-hmm.
So it shuts down like Modernia rest counter in the Nikkei matchup, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I would say like as far as the decks that we looked at today, they are pretty solid. I was kind of trying to think about if I was going to compare this to another set in terms of power level and like meta relevancy, what set I would compare it to. And I kind of feel like it's like probably around the level of like Makein. What do you think of that?
I think it's probably better because it has stock swap.
Yeah, you're probably right.
The closest comparison I probably have is it's probably a better 1k1 Hololive deck. Which is to say that, like, obviously we don't really see 1k1 Hololive anymore, but that's not to say that it's like a bad deck. It's just like it's pretty generic. It has stock swap, it has Marraine.
I would still probably say like Kali Gura with Gura 2 is probably still better than Eminence.
Probably if you assume that like you can play around counterplay. But yeah, I think something like Eminence with the options, with the top end options you have, I think it can just be pretty meta reliant. I think if the meta became where it was like, I gotta kill you before you kill me, no one's playing defensive options. I think Eminence can just be one of those decks that can just blow you out. However, we are not in that meta, and there is always bound to be, a defensive build that has ways to like heal down to 2, or just have rest counters and things like that, or can disrupt your board.
Or both. I'm looking at you, 8 standby Overlord.
Yeah, exactly. And like people are still on like Hololive, for example. So it's like, I mean, like the it's not just as simple as just a 1k1 deck versus a 1k1 deck, and then see who kills someone first. It can be like that, but the best decks in the game can do that, but also have defensive options, which I think does make certain builds of Eminence just a lot weaker. That being said, like the builds that can kind of mitigate those, defensive options for your opponent, like Beatrix, is not everything has their own kind of like pros and cons, right? I do think, like, I believe in the community, or I believe in Eminence lovers to be able to find a really solid build no matter what meta. If it is like a very defensive meta, then Beatrice and God Knight, like you said, can make an appearance. I think if it is I'm just gonna hyper compress and try to kill you with like a huge level 3 turn, then I think like the Shadow or Sortie builds can compete with those. But I think it's probably just like it's a good 1k1 deck, and it's probably not much more than that. But at the same time, a good 1k1 deck can just do well in tournament regardless,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that more or less sums up our thoughts on set.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what the community comes up with. Obviously, we are just two brains in a sea of, a lot of meisters that are going to be very excited to try to find their best homebrew for Eminence and Shadow. It's always very exciting when we have a new English original set, because we don't have the copy paste like we do. We don't have the statistics like we do for a regular set where we get the stats from Japan. So we'll see if this turns out to be, something that we can expect to see at future regional events, or if it will just be one of those like, I played this set because I like these cute girls, or per Vassat. I don't know. I don't judge.
Yep.
Right. So that's going to do it for our Eminence and Shadow kind of like set/deck archetype overview. Coming up, we are going to have Fujimi kind of like overview as well, and Simu's going to be handling that. And then we're going to have Troll Deck Plus Pluses for both Eminence and Shadow and for Fujimi Volume 2.
Well, those...
Unfortunately...
Oh, wait, I forget. Did we put... What should we have on the schedule first, now that I think about it?
Eminence?
No, I mean, like, was it supposed to be the TD++ first, or was it? I don't even remember.
No, it was going to be the profiles, right? The set overviews.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You are so right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, due to the timing of Fujimi and Eminence releasing literally a week before Worlds, unfortunately we just don't have time to actually record the normal gameplay videos that we usually do for new sets. We have to go to Worlds. So the idea is we are going to try to feature Eminence and Shadow in particular, and maybe Fujimi in our future blocks. Our next release after this is the Nazarick Extra Booster. So hopefully we will be able to feature some Eminence builds for you guys to show off. Maybe the community will have come up with more solid deck ideas, and then we can use our shared information to build more solid deck recipes to show off to you guys. But that does wrap up everything from Mike and Randall on the Tressa's Collectibles channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any cool ideas about Eminence, just comments to bring up about any of our points or a cool deck idea that you want to try that we haven't mentioned yet, definitely leave anything that you might want to talk about in the comments, and we'll get back to you, and maybe we can talk a little bit more. So yeah, signing off. This is Mike
And Randall.
and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.